Hey, everybody, welcome into another edition of Sal's House. It is draft week, and the National Football League cannot wait for Thursday night. It's always a fun night. Now, if the Bills stay at 28, they're not going to be picking until about 11:30 at night, sometime in the 11 o'clock hour. Maybe they'll trade up. Maybe they'll stay where they are. Maybe they'll trade back. Maybe we get to Thursday night. It's over, and we're like, hey, they didn't even make a pick. We got to wait till Friday for that. That's the intrigue about the NFL draft. Before I get to my guest today, always a great time doing a mock draft with Jon Scott. Got to always tell you about our sponsor, Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street in Buffalo. I mean, if you're going to watch the NFL draft somewhere, you want to go somewhere, you want to get good wings, good pizza, good beer, everything else they got on tap. And what a great environment. I will tell you, for my money, there is no better place to watch all of the sports than Sports City Pizza Pub. They have so many TVs all right there for you to see, no matter which way you turn, no matter which angle you are. And they have great wings, like basically 30 different flavors. Great pizza, of course, beer on tap, whatever you want. Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street in Buffalo. All right, I'm going to welcome in right now my guy, Jon Scott. Not only is Jon going to help me do the dueling mock draft this year, but congratulations are in order to my good buddy, Jon Scott, the new Channel 2 WGRZ TV2 sports director. Congratulations, buddy. Thanks for doing this again.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, but we're finally here, and I think an appropriate week for me to knock on wood. Hopefully, start my time at Channel 2 with the draft, which is always 3 days that are a grind. They are long, but I love it. I truly love it. In the year of COVID or two that we weren't inside the facility and all together, it was disappointing for many reasons, but the atmosphere and everything in that room is super fun to be a part of.
Yeah, it's very cool. And, I was thinking just the other day, like I grew up in Buffalo watching all of the stations, and, whether it was 247, you had Van on 4 and you had Rick Azar on 7. They were the main guys. And then Channel 2, man, and you're following the footsteps of some pretty big, remarkable people who've had that job over the years. Ed Kilgore, watching him when I was growing up, amazing, right? And I know Wes Goforth is in that department. How about Mike DeGeorge, who was basically, who's now, in the police and fire spokesperson, and of course, our good buddy, Adam Benini.
I told Adam when we were talking the day it was announced last Tuesday that it's almost like the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm just the third sports director ever at Channel 2. Ed Kilgore was there for 40 years or so, and then Adam's been there in that role since about 2013. And as much as I'm not a Steelers guy, I mean, that type of continuity and success and lineage is truly an honor to be a part of and carry the torch here forward. And I got two people working with me, and Jonathan Acosta and Lindsay Moppert, that super excited about. And I just know that I can continue to push things forward and bring the coverage the way I think it should be, and keep pushing the envelope here to make things even better.
And of course, working alongside Scott and Mary Alice, that's got to be pretty cool for you to think about as well.
It is. I don't know Scott as much as Mary Alice. She was at our wedding. She's been a great person and mentor to my wife, Heather Pruzak. So there's a lot of familiar faces in that building, even though I'm just getting started. So that's going to make the transition even easier for me. Claudine Ewing was at my wedding. She's someone that has been great to my wife and myself as well. Lauren Hall, I've known for 10 years, and the list goes on and on and on. So I'm excited to get this new venture and part of my career started. And again, draft week, I think is the best place to throw myself into the deep end and just do what I've been doing for 10 years. Just you could find me on a different channel.
And of course, by the way, our good buddy Patrick Hammer, he's at Channel 2. And then, I mean, you can't step out of your house without finding another Syracuse person. Melissa Holmes in the morning, another Syracuse person, Lauren Hall. But you got some great people you're going to be working with. I hope this means that I know it shouldn't, but that you're not going to go anywhere far from WGR and come on once in a while still to talk about Buffalo sports.
I love it, man. I'll do it whenever, whenever you ask me. If you ask me a week in advance, you ask me an hour in advance, I'm usually game. So I look forward to it. The only thing might be is my sleep schedule might be a little different now.
Yes, that's right.
I've been a dayside guy for the better part of most of my time here, and now the idea of getting off the desk at 11:35 at night, I'm usually well into my time in bed by that point in time. So maybe the first few weeks, I'm not a big caffeine guy, but I may need some jolts just to make sure I can bring the energy appropriately that late at night.
And then finally, Jon, real quickly, we'd be remiss to not mention some of the great people you worked with at Spectrum. I know you're gaining a family. You're also leaving a family that you developed great relationships with. And I know you've been with Andy and a lot of people over there and Kevin and that group for a long time.
Absolutely. I mean, I've known Andy Young for almost 20 years. We started in the same market in small town Ohio, and that was kind of the thing that led me here to Buffalo. What was the connection with Andy, and obviously working with Kevin for the past 10 plus years. I mean, it's rare. I mean, it's rare to work with the same people for that long, especially in this industry. So I was really honored to do that. And when I announced my departure from Spectrum, I made sure to shout out the other people that have been part of the sports department in particular over my tenure over there. And that was Greg Vorse, who hasn't been with us for a few years, Ted Goldberg, Rachel Hopmeyer's been around the past few years as well. George Bloss was kind of a behind the scenes type guy. And so we had a good thing over there. And I would not be where I'm at now without the things and experiences that I had over there. And now just kind of was the natural time for this opportunity to come about. And I look back fondly and I look forward fondly as well.
Well, Jan and I are very happy for you, very proud of you. Glad to see this happen for you. And, I always tell people, Jon, this, people ask me all the time, sure, we're all competitors in this business, right? You want to get a story before somebody else, and I do, and we all want to have the inside info and all that. But you know what? I mean, this isn't Philly where they're all at each other's throats, or Chicago or LA. We're all friends in this market. I was at your wedding. You come to my house. We hang out. We always just saw each other on Saturday night. Josh Reed's the director at Channel 4. Of course, he's a good buddy of all of ours. Whether it's, you went on Joe's podcast, you come on my podcast, Joe Buscaglia, that is. And I think that's what's super cool about Buffalo.
Absolutely. And that was something where there was a point where I was looking even beyond television for my next opportunity. And that would have been part of the departure from this type of profession and job that I would have missed, is being around a lot of those people. I truly think, even though I've been in other markets, this will be my 5th television station. Buffalo is my 4th city I've worked in, but they weren't pro markets. They were a little different. And now I have learned in over 10 years that we've really evolved and developed as a beat, as a group, as a media group, a sports group, to have great relationships and have dinner on the road for road trips. Or even, you mentioned Saturday, my wife threw together a little surprise thing, and there were people from the TV, radio, print. I mean, just all sorts of people that were out there to celebrate this next step for me. And it was really appreciative. And like I said, we'll all be crammed like sardines, unlike any other 3-day stretch over the next couple days at the end of the week. But I think it's rare, and I don't take that for granted. And I'm glad to continue to be a part of that as well.
Well, thanks for joining me on this episode. As you have the last couple of years, we've done this dueling mocks for the NFL draft each of the last few years. And how it works basically is Jon and I are going to do 2 mock drafts. We'll do one where I start with the number 1 pick, the Chicago Bears, and we rotate, and I have every odd pick. He has every even pick. And then once we get to 28, we're done for the Bills. We'll talk about their pick. Then we'll start over again. Jon will have the number 1 pick, and we'll do that. So we don't have to spend too much time on each pick. We can kind of just maybe talk about the prospect or the team if we'd like for a minute or so. And then we move on to the next pick and we get it going. And then we come up with a consensus on what we do at 28 if we were the Bills in this type of scenario. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to throw up on the screen so everybody can see here. This is the PFF mock draft simulator. I went to NFL.com, went to PFF. We did this. So I'll do my best. I don't normally share my screen when I do this. I'm not like the best, most incredible technology guy, but I'm learning as we go through all these different podcasts. I mean, Jon, that's a virtual background you see on me. You can see that's actually my house. It really is. That's my my chimney, but it's virtual today. So if anybody sees me kind of looks a little weird when I do something like that, it is virtual, but it is pretty cool. I'm kind of learning how to do all it. You're the TV guy. I'm the radio guy. I'm learning about all this stuff now, man.
I mean, I recognize that when you put it up, and at first I thought you were downstairs, and then I noticed some of the stuff there, the brick wall on the ground. That's also, somewhat similar to what you got downstairs. So it's I think you look good. I'm still trying to learn it. I'm not, I'm don't get me confused with some technological savant over here. I'd maybe just be a little bit ahead of you.
All right. Well, we thank once again Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street in Buffalo, for being a part of Sal's House. If you ever want to have an opportunity to advertise on the show here, make sure you get in touch with me. You can do that through social media, of course, or any way that is possible. And, we can help you on board here. We'd love to have more people and more businesses, get their word out here on Sal's House. I will start with the first overall pick in our first of the two mock drafts here. I think this is a slam dunk. I'm going to go with Caleb Williams, the quarterback of USC for the Chicago Bears. John, I think there's a slam dunk of slam dunks that Caleb Williams is going to be the number one pick overall here.
I agree with you. And now I think I have the challenging decision of who you believe in. It seems like Jaden Daniels has gotten a lot more pub of late, but Drake May, maybe is he better? I don't know. So I at 2 with Washington, I am going to go with Drake May. I'm just going to trust that he's been considered the number 2 guy for most of this process, and I'm not going to deviate from that, even though some of the conversations and mocks around the league have shifted to Jaden Daniels.
All right. Well, I guess what? Bills fans aren't going to love this because you just left. You went with Drake May, you said, right? I'm sorry. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Drake May? Okay, good. Yep. You left Jaden Daniels for the New England Patriots. I think that Jaden Daniels could wind up being a special player in the NFL. I would also say, though, it's kind of going to be where he goes and how he's handled and developed. I think he has the best tools of all these guys that are coming out. I mean, maybe not Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams could be special too. But boy, if Jaden Daniels goes to the Patriots and he becomes really special, that's not going to be good for the Buffalo Bills. But the Patriots can't pass up on Jaden Daniels. I'm taking him number 3 overall in this draft.
I'm going to go Marvin Harrison Jr. to Arizona. This is maybe one of the trade slots that potentially could happen here. But at some point, you gotta get the blue chippers, and you gotta give Kyler Murray and things like that a legit weapon. And Marvin Harrison, I know some people think maybe Neighbors or Odunze, can push him as the number 1 wide receiver, but I'm going with my Buckeye.
Okay, I think that's a great choice. I think he's going to be really good in this league. Okay, the number 5 pick. I think, truth be told, the number 5 pick overall might actually get traded by the LA Chargers because they have a lot of different ways they can go. I'm taking a look at, all the different kind of mock drafts and what everybody has them taking here. I mean, they could go. You see, I'm looking. How many drafts have you seen Minnesota in this spot, John? Every time I look, Minnesota's in this spot for the Chargers. But you know what? At the end of the day, the Chargers, too much smoke about them really needing an offensive line, a guy that can come in, a guy that can just kind of really help protect Justin Herbert. We've heard John Harbaugh talk about it a lot, Jim Harbaugh, excuse me. And I think Joe Alt from Notre Dame fits for them. Now, again, I think they probably do trade this pick, but in our draft here, we're not going to do trades. We're going to stick with kind of what would happen if they were on the clock at that moment. I'm going Joe Alt, the tackle from Notre Dame, for the Chargers at number 5.
Joe Shane, I don't. Because we have the 2.
Sorry, I lost you for 1 second, but go ahead. You're good now.
I think someone was trying to call me.
I got you.
So whether or not they do one of the 2 receivers or do they take JJ McCarthy? To me, I'm up in the air for this exercise. I will go Malik Neighbors and say maybe they don't believe McCarthy at this point is worth it, and rather maybe continue to invest in Daniel Jones.
Okay, well, that leaves number 7 to the Tennessee Titans. What do the Tennessee Titans do? They're kind of resetting their roster a little bit. Boy, they could go a lot of different ways. What's the consensus? PFF says wide receiver, O-line, edge rusher, or DB. Well, the number 1 wide receiver left on the board is Rome Odunze, and I know he'd be great to get for the Buffalo Bills if they could get that high, but I'm going to take him for the Tennessee Titans. Rome Odunze, the wide receiver from TCU, to go to the Tennessee Titans with the number 7 overall pick. Maybe a little higher than a lot of people anticipate, but they definitely could use him in that offense.
All right, the Falcons. What I'm going to do is, I know a lot of people that I've been reading recently think Byron Murphy is maybe the best defensive player in this entire draft. And we know how loaded up Atlanta has gone offensively. I'm going to give him some help defensively, and so I'm going to go Byron Murphy.
Ooh, I like it.
From Texas at 8 overall.
Yeah, I think that what they've done on their offense can be really good, John. I don't know how you feel about Cousins, but man, they have some talent on that team.
I mean, how good does Cousins have to be, right? It was
Right.
kind of the same way I looked at with Aaron Rodgers before he got hurt last year. Like how they don't have to be the best version of themselves for those offenses to take some serious steps forward and that team overall to be better. I mean, we often say, and it's something that even with the Bills, it's just get the ball into these guys' hands. And when you have talent like Atlanta does, I think that's really all Cousins is going to have to do.
All right, this puts the Chicago Bears up next. I have the Bears pick now. They've, of course, already gone with Caleb Williams with the number 1 overall pick. I think the Bears would love to take Roman Dunze here, but in our draft, of course, I just took a Dunze for the Tennessee Titans. They have to still get help on defense. I'm looking at the edge rushers. That's where they would go in this situation, I think. Now, look, Laiatu Latu would probably be the pick, but there's a lot of concerns about injuries, and I just don't think that Ryan Poles can really take that risk with the number 9 pick. So I think he's going to go more with the safer play and go with Dallas Turner here from Alabama. I'm going to put Dallas Turner on the Chicago Bears to help out that defense with the number 9 overall pick.
All right. Every mock I seem to read, Brock Bowers is the pick with the Jets.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go there. And we discussed, they've done a pretty good job at solidifying and adding young talent to the offense. And I think if you get a Brock Bowers and you have Garrett Wilson and you have Breece Hall, I mean, I don't know. I think that's pretty good, even if Aaron Rodgers is 40 coming off an Achilles.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, number 11. This is the team that I think most people expect to actually move up and not pick number 11. They're oftentimes mocked for the 5th pick, who the Chargers currently own. That is the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings want a quarterback, right? That's why they made this deal with the Houston Texans to be put in this position. So the next quarterback up for them, I think, is probably J.J. McCarthy. I just read, and I didn't realize, I guess, J.J. McCarthy was coached in high school by Josh McCown, and now Josh McCown's a quarterback's coach for the Vikings. Like, is that right? I think I read that today. Did you realize that? Did you know that?
I did not know that. I figured Josh McCown has been playing in the NFL for 80 years, so when would he have
something along those lines? Maybe I got it completely wrong, but I did read something like that. So I'll take JJ McCarthy anyway to the Minnesota Vikings at number 11. By the way, my 10-year-old son, Max, I asked him, I gave him all the 6 quarterbacks who were the consensus top 6 quarterbacks. I said, who's going to have the best career? He said, JJ McCarthy. Yeah. I disagree with Max. I do not think he is, but that's what Max said.
I disagree with him as well. I'm going to go, ironically enough, with an Ohio prospect. This Quinion Mitchell, I mean, he tested great, and you wouldn't think a guy from Toledo would be in the upper half of the first round, but I believe that he's considered arguably the best corner. Mm-hmm. And Denver, we're going to go that direction. They got Patrick Surtain and stuff like that, but I know they probably would like some offense. I just don't think the value is there. And if you can use help on defense, then let's go there.
And the Broncos, as we sit here on Monday, looks like they're going to sign Levi Wallace, but that's a depth piece. I mean, you could still overdraft Levi Wallace, or draft over him, I should say, no doubt about it. And I think that a lot of times teams do it to make you think they're not going to go in a certain direction by getting another guy and a veteran in, and then they ultimately do that. That puts me on the clock with the Raiders at pick number 13. Look, I think this has become easy for me the last couple of picks. You'll get a chance to do the odd picks on the next one, but I'm doing it now. I just went with J.J. McCarthy. Now I'm going to go with another quarterback for the Raiders. I think they really would like to get Michael Penix Jr., the lefty out of Washington. I agree when people say he reminds them of Tua, not just because he's left-handed, John. He's very accurate, but he doesn't have the strongest arm. He seems to me, and he's not the most mobile guy in the world. I compare him to Tua as well, and I think the Raiders would be perfectly fine with grabbing him here. They have a lot of quarterback questions, of course.
Yeah, I think that's fine. To me, maybe if they want to go that route, maybe that's a trade back scenario. Of course, I don't know. I mean, obviously, you got to figure out, you have to have a dancing partner. And I mean, it maybe is a little high, but would this be an area where the Buffalo Bills would say, hey, the top 3 receivers are off the board. We like Brian Thomas. Let's get up to 13, and maybe Michael Penix is still there at the latter portion of the first. Just a thought.
Sure.
All right, the Saints. You know what? Let's go. I know you said there's the concerns with Latu.
Yeah,
but you know what? I'm gonna go that New Orleans will say, hey, we'll trust the talent, and they'll go that direction.
Wouldn't they be a team to do that too? Like New Orleans, like they're a team that they push all the money down the road. They don't care. They take risks, right? That's the perfect fit. I agree with that. I think that's a really nice choice for them. Okay, on the clock next is number 15th. That is the Indianapolis Colts. So the Colts can go in a number of directions here. I think the consensus is they need help at DB. They need help at wide receiver. Well, guess what? There's a really, really good DB on the board. He could play a lot of different positions and do a lot of different things for them. And that is Cooper DeJean of Iowa. So I'm going to take Cooper DeJean. He stays in the Midwest, goes from Iowa to the Indianapolis Colts. He becomes the 15th pick in the 2024 NFL draft.
All right. Well, we know Seattle, they always seem to have a good defense.
Yep.
I mean, it just seems to be their calling card here. At least the way PFF is stacking the board here, a lot of tackles, which they don't really need. So I'm going to go down the board a little bit here. And I'm going to take Jared Verse from Florida State because I just feel the way the board is stacking with, certain positions they may need. This kind of seems to be the next guy in line because, again, they don't seem to need a tackle.
By the way, Jared Verse started his college career at SUNY Albany. A SUNY Albany player is going to be drafted in the first round of the NFL draft, John.
And a Toledo corner. Look at this. I mean, it's just, you never know.
And you never know. That's right. Okay, number 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock. What do people think the Jaguars need here? We got, you know what? They did sign Mitch Morse. So they don't need center anymore. That was something they thought that was needed, but they still need interior O-line. They could go edge. They do have Josh Allen, of course, the other Josh Allen. Let me see what we got for the O-line prospect. Jackson Powers Johnson would have been a pick as of a month ago for them. I don't think he's the pick right now. Let's go D-line for them because they need a D-lineman here. The next guy up for D-line would be Jerzon Johnny Newton. That's right, Johnny Newton. Jerzon's his first name. They call him Johnny. He's out of Illinois. This is the perfect spot for him, by the way. I think he could help that interior D-line for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Johnny Newton of Illinois at number 17.
I think it was Ben Solak of The Ringer I was looking at. He said Brian Thomas or receiver is potentially there. Ooh. They lose Calvin Ridley. And you never know what could do. I kind of looked at it and said, I mean, is that really a way? And here I am with the Bengals, and they always need to address the offensive line. So I think that's the route I'm going to go. But with T. Higgins' uncertainty, Tyler Boyd no longer on the roster, would they consider a wide receiver to do what I think a lot of people on the Bills fandom side of things have wanted? Just make sure you're constantly keeping the cupboard stacked up. I'm going to go tackle Talise Fuaga from Oregon. Man. But I do think it would be a very interesting decision if they're like, let's just keep adding great offensive skill talent to Joe Burrow and just keep doing that. And that would be intriguing. I mean, imagine if they trade T. Higgins, they get Brian Thomas, they still have Jamar Chase. I mean, you'd probably fear them just the same, if not more.
Yeah, Fuaga, Oregon State, and we're going to put him on there. But what's funny is, think of the tackle names. You got Fuaga, Troy Fautanu, and then another one, Olmuyiwa, Fashanu. I mean, oh my gosh, these guys, if they come to Buffalo, John, we're going to be getting with PR to try and get all these names right. I don't think the Bills are in the market for a tackle that early, though.
I don't either. Thank you. I don't think they're in the market for a tackle, so I think we're going to be safe.
Okay, so this is really interesting now. By the way, for the Bengals, you're right about receiver, but I think if they could really get their hands on Brock Bowers, they'd love him, but I don't think he'll be there for them. The Rams are really interesting. I think this is, you never know. You know why you don't know about the Rams? They never have a first-round pick, John. They haven't had a first-round pick in like 5 years, right? I mean, so you don't know which way they're going to go. But the thing is, they're sitting there, and they have a quarterback who's getting older, and Matthew Stafford. I'm gonna go a little off the board here and say Bo Nix goes to the Rams and goes to Sean McVay's offense. Bo Nix, smart guy, older. He can pick up the offense, which we know is kind of confusing or complicated at least. And I think he's the heir apparent to a team in the Rams that doesn't have to start him right away. And he's not ready to start right away, maybe. Bo Nix to the Rams.
All right. I have the Steelers at 20. I'm going to go Terry and Arnold, or excuse me. No. Sorry. Actually, no, I'll do that. I'll go Terry and Arnold, the corner from Alabama. again, Steelers defense, and
Yep.
Joey Porter Jr. is a corner that, I think he had some moments and ascended over Levi Wallace towards the back end of the season in Pittsburgh. If they can basically solidify those two spots with young, talented high picks, I think that's good. And we know Mike Tomlin,
Oh my
likes that
gosh.
defense. So we'll go there. It was either that or one of the tackles. But I'm going to go with the corner.
They went, remember, tackle last year. It'd be back to back if they did that. I agree with you. That's how they. And they went out and got the quarterback this year, of course, Russell Wilson, both him and Justin Fields, but it seems like defense is probably right. So the Dolphins are on the clock. John, this is a perfect spot for them to get their new center, because remember last year, all the injuries they had on the offensive line, and Jackson Powers Johnson is sitting right there. And this would be perfect for the Dolphins. So Jackson Powers Johnson, center, goes to the Miami Dolphins at 21.
All right, the Eagles. Well, they don't need a wide receiver, so you know that's pretty good here. Let's see what we have here in the secondary as we work our way down here.
By the way, while you do that, you take a look. Just want to remind everybody, Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street in Buffalo. Check it out. Draft night. It's going to be great. You can go down there, get some pizza and wings, and hang out and watch the draft on all of their incredibly big screen TVs.
All right. Well, they'd prefer, like, if DeJean was there, I think he'd be good because he could compete for the corner spot and then maybe kick back to safety. You know what? I will go with Peyton Wilson from NC State, a linebacker. Maybe a bit of a reach, but I just feel like linebacker seems to be a spot that they could address.
You know what? I had him up. I think that's perfect. You remember the Bills signed Nick Morrow from them, the linebacker, and everybody I talked to, I asked them, they said, well, they have linebacker issues, and he was a depth piece, but he's not like a true starter. But everybody talked about linebacker with the Eagles, so I think that's a perfect fit for them from you. All right, now we have the second pick for the Minnesota Vikings, and it's my pick again. But I also took a quarterback for them. That was J.J. McCarthy with their first pick. In the meantime, what else do they have to work on? Let's see. Well, they could go interior offensive line here. In fact, let me take a look at the interior offensive line that are not really sure you want to go there. How about D-line? Well, you know what? There's some good D-linemen available. They could definitely use some help there on the D-line as well. Hold on. I'm going to pull this back up. Here we go. Boy, I don't really know if there's anybody I really love for them. Offensive tackle. You know what? That's what we'll do here. We'll go Fountainu, the offensive tackle for a team that I think could protect their new franchise quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. I'm going to take him from Washington, put him on the Minnesota Vikings at 23.
Dallas Cowboys at 24. Let's go J.C. Latham, the tackle from Alabama. It's amazing to think that for so long Dallas was known as like the best offensive line in football, and it hasn't been as big of a strength recently as it has been in the past. And I think the more you can infuse talent, I think that's the direction. And again, the tackles, the way these boards are stacking, just it seems to be the right position at this point.
Yeah, and one of those guys, remember, for years, Lael Collins was a part of that group that was this great line they had. And now, of course, he's on the Buffalo Bills after a couple injuries and a couple of different teams departed. Okay, the Green Bay Packers are on the clock. Well, then what a nice season the Green Bay Packers had. They can go in a number of different directions here. I do think as much as they've been kind of helping out on their offensive side, they probably have to look at the defensive side as well. You know what? Oh, boy, I know that they traded Rasul Douglas last year. Let me look at the corners here because I know there's a couple corners still on the board. Oh, you know what? Nate Wiggins. Nate Wiggins is probably considered the best pure corner in this draft. And I think that would be a really nice fit in Green Bay. I know after they traded Rasul Douglas, fans were like, well, why did you trade Rasul Douglas? Jair Alexander, of course, is there, but this will be a nice pair with Jair Alexander. I'm going to go with Nate Wiggins for the Green Bay Packers at 25 overall. Maybe the best pure corner in this draft.
And they lost from the secondary, Simone Biles' husband. I don't remember his name, but he's now with the Chicago Bears.
There you go. That's right.
After he said that he didn't know who Simone Biles was when they started dating. Get out of here, dude. Everybody knows who Simone Biles is. 26, Tampa Bay. Man, PFF has them with like a million needs.
Yes.
You know what? Let's go with, I'm going to say, let's go Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Yes.
from Alabama, the corner. He's one of those guys. I'm not gonna say a draft cautionary tale, but before last college football season, he was, I think, widely regarded as a top 10 type guy. And maybe it's not that he played poorly, but he just, now he's more of a late first round type guy.
Okay. The pick before the Bills, the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock. We already gave them Marvin Harrison Jr. They do have to address their interior O-line. But, John, I'm looking at this and going, wait a minute. You took your wide receiver. You have your quarterback who, he's young and you really like, and you're building that. But how about on the defensive side? I'm looking at Chop Robinson here, who hasn't been taken yet. And this is a athletic freak, right? People comparing him to Micah Parsons, same school. But then again, there's the cautionary tale about, okay, well, you had Aaron Maben from Penn State. Chop Robinson to the Arizona Cardinals to help out a team on the defensive side who is already working on the offensive side with your pick from earlier with Marvin Harrison Jr. So that brings us to the Buffalo Bills at pick number 28. Jon Scott, you're up first for the Bills, and I'll give my thoughts.
Well, I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. This would be probably as close to the dream scenario as you could possibly find. The Bills get who universally, I would say, for almost the consensus number 4 guy at the wide receiver position of this group. Most believe that you'll get the first 3 top 10 or around then. And then maybe at some point in the teens, Brian Thomas comes off the board. And in most of my trying to parse through and run through it all for how this is going to work out for the Bills, that to me, I've always thought if they want Brian Thomas, they're going to have to get into the teens and make a move up. And if it shook out this way to get him to 28, I mean, you're running the pick up to the board. I think this was probably unlikely. He probably goes higher, especially if you add trades into the mix with other teams as well.
Yes.
But if this is how it shook out, Brian Thomas, without question, would be the pick.
John, I agree with you, but I'm going to say this. This is the first time I've done an exercise like this, so I'm glad we did this because I didn't think there'd be any chance he'd get to 28. And now that I do this exercise with you, I'm like, there's more of a chance than I guess I ever gave it credit for. You know what I mean?
Right. And I'm sure when we re-rack and we do different picks, that's where maybe some of these teams, I'm not saying Cincinnati or I'm not saying some of these Jacksonville or whatever, but you go back and you do it again. That's where it's like, I don't know, would they do that?
Right.
Would some of these teams say, you know what, let's just keep flooding our offense with talented guys and we do it again. So I find it incredibly unlikely that as we redo this again, Brian Thomas Jr. will be at the Bills at 28.
Let's see if that happens. All right. We've talked a lot about some of these players already. We'll start it over. John now has the first pick overall with the Chicago Bears. We'll restart the mock draft.
All right. Caleb Williams, consensus, easy. That's what we're going to do.
All right. Caleb Williams, number 1. All right, let me hit start draft. I'll put him there. I'm going to go opposite of you. I'm going to take Jaden Daniels. I just told you how much I like Jaden Daniels as a prospect, and I think the Washington Commanders go Daniels over any of the other quarterbacks.
All right, then I'll go Drake May to the New England Patriots. And you certainly, from a Bills fan perspective, probably, I don't maybe fears too much, but you worry a little bit more that New England might finally find the next guy after Brady in Drake May, certainly than you did when they selected Mac Jones.
All right, I'm going to go chalk here from you. Last time, Marvin Harrison Jr. has got to be the slam dunk pick at number 4, considering the top 3 guys are going to be quarterbacks. And Marvin Harrison Jr., by a lot of people, is considered the best overall prospect, regardless of position in this draft. Plus, it just fits for the Arizona Cardinals. I'll put Marvin Harrison Jr. there. Number 5, the LA Chargers. I said earlier, they might trade this, but John, in our situation here, you can't trade, buddy.
No, and I'm going to go Malik Neighbors. I'm going to go there and say, again, you have a franchise quarterback. You lost Mike Williams. I think they lost Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Is that right? Keenan Allen, was he on the Bears?
Yep, that's right.
And so now you drafted Quentin Johnston a year ago. You don't really know what that is. If you can get Neighbors and now you see Justin Herbert, all right, here we go.
All right. This is really interesting for me because I think the Giants can do a few things here. Do they really like quarterback J.J. McCarthy that much? Do they really want to draft a wide receiver in Rome Odunze? But I look at Joe Shane and I think of last year. John, do you remember when they came to Buffalo Monday night and they had like 5 different offensive linemen because all of them had been hurt? and they just could not protect their quarterbacks all year. Daniel Jones was getting just completely decimated every single time he lined up. So I'm going to put Joe Alt on the New York Giants, the tackle from Notre Dame, considered the best offensive lineman, at least at the tackle position in this draft. I think that's where they go to try and protect whoever is going to play quarterback.
I like that. All right. So Tennessee at 7 on the clock. And I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to say that they're going to roll the dice and they'll go with Latu and say, you know what?
Yeah.
We believe in it. Let's get some prowess rushing the passer.
He could wind up being like the best edge rusher in this draft. He's probably the most talented, no doubt. We'll see where they go. On the clock now, the Atlanta Falcons at pick number 8. Let's see. They could go in a few different directions, but I think it's got to be on defense, considering what they've done on offense. They really could use some edge rushing help. So let me just go to the edge rushers here. You know what? Dallas Turner fits here for Atlanta. Dallas Turner, this would be a good spot for them. He's a guy that can play. He comes from an Alabama system, coached by Nick Saban. He could do a lot. He could play a little bit of a 3-4, 4-3 edge rusher. So Dallas Turner to the Atlanta Falcons.
All right. So now we are at Chicago, who certainly took Caleb Williams here. And I'm going to go Byron Murphy here. And we know they invested at the linebacker position a year ago in free agency. And, again, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, they have Caleb Williams. I think maybe if you address the trenches portion of the defense, that can help that, because their defense was not good. I mean, they weren't good in general at a lot of things, obviously. Yes. But I think I'll go there.
New defensive coordinator Eric Washington, who won't be calling defensive plays, but he is the defensive coordinator in Chicago. All right, this is a slam dunk from both of us. You had it earlier. I'll have it now. Brock Bowers, tight end of the Jets. I mean, they really need a tight end. I would tell you that the Jets, I think, do have to address a little bit of pass rush. They have a good D-line, but they lost Bryce Huff in free agency. But Brock Bowers, and how about this on PFF? We're using theirs mock draft here, as you can see on the screen, everybody. He's the number 7 rated prospect on PFF, but Brock Bowers to the New York Jets at tight end. And that is number 10. Now we get to number 11, the Minnesota Vikings.
And if J.J. McCarthy, if Minnesota doesn't have to trade up to get him, I think that's what they will do in this scenario. And I believe in the previous one with you at the wheel, they also selected J.J. McCarthy. So I'm going J.J. McCarthy, 11th overall to Minnesota.
J.J. McCarthy, that puts the Denver Broncos on the clock. Is this where the Denver Broncos want to draft a quarterback? I think they might. They could go in another. You know what, though? Their wide receiver group is oh man, is Rome Odunze still sitting there? Boy, what is going on with their receivers they have? This might be a deal where if they get here, John, they might take a Odunze and then trade one of their guys. I'm going to go a little off the board though and say that Sean Payton wants to find his quarterback. I'm going to give him Michael Penix Jr. Michael Penix Jr. at quarterback. A little upset maybe over Bo Nix to some people, but I think Michael Penix, pick number 12 to the Denver Broncos, only because I think Sean Payton says, I got to have a freaking quarterback.
Yeah. And this is one that maybe between Minnesota and Denver, it's a fight to get up maybe to 5 or 4, whatever it may be, to try to get McCarthy, if that's who both these teams go for. All right, we are now at the Las Vegas Raiders, and I'm going to go with Quinion Mitchell, the Toledo cornerback.
Okay, corner for the Raiders. They get some corner help there. Boy, John, if the board is falling this way and it's at 14 and Odunze is still on the board, what does Brandon Beane do and how much does he give up? I mean,
I still firmly believe, and it's why I asked him specifically last week, his comfortability and willingness to trade the 1 for next year. I think that's probably his threshold, is I don't want to do it. I think you may not have to at 14. I mean, maybe you have to give up a couple seconds, including that Minnesota pick for next year. But I think we're reaching the territory where maybe they can get by, where moving up without mortgaging next year's first-round pick.
Well, I can't let Odunze fall any further, especially to a team like the Saints who would definitely use him. The Saints could really still go offensive tackle here, but I'm going to give him Rome Odunze at pick number 14. I think that for the Saints, if you see him falling that far, you just have to grab at that point what might be the best overall player in this draft.
100%. Let's see. We are at 15 with the Colts. Cooper DeJean. I think that just seems to make the most sense.
Yeah, I like that too. That's who I went with him earlier in the first time we did this around. All right, let's go to the Seattle Seahawks. Boy, Seattle, they could go a number of different directions here. You know what? They do need some interior offensive line help. And there's our guy, Jackson Powers Johnson, considered probably the best, overall center in this draft. I think the consensus. So I'll go Jackson Powers Johnson to the Seattle Seahawks center at number 16.
All right. And here we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you know what? We talked through it, and I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to pick Brian Thomas Jr. to Jacksonville, 17 overall.
Pair him with Gabe Davis. Right now, is Gabe Davis their number one guy, John?
I mean, Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
And it's maybe they don't. Maybe, ironically enough, maybe they're going to almost look like what the Bills might ultimately look like, where there's no clear-cut number one, but it's just a collection of good talent, but no one that seems to separate, at least initially, as a true number one.
All right, I'm going to go here with the Cincinnati Bengals taking Jerzon Johnny Newton from Illinois. Perfect fit for them. They lost DJ Reader. I'm a big DJ Reader fan, by the way. This is not DJ Reader. This is a smaller, undersized type of player, but he's a penetrator, sideline to sideline guy. He's more like an Ed Oliver, actually, but I think that's a really nice fit for them. And especially in a division where you got to chase around some quarterbacks and, get after some guys. And we've seen, the AFC and the quarterbacks and how important it is to get to them in the playoffs. So the Bengals with Jerzon Johnny Newton. 19 is the Rams.
I'm going to go with Talise Fuaga from Oregon State, the tackle, to bolster the offensive line for the LA Rams.
Okay, well, you're going to leave me the Pittsburgh Steelers. Boy, I'd really love to Gene here for them. You talk about the Steelers. We talked about, their propensity for defense, what they want there. Yes, offensive tackle is a, spot where they could address here. I think they'd like to maybe get their hands on Jackson Powers Johnson. Boy, you had Terry and Arnold earlier. I think I might have to do that as well. I know it's not sexy to go with the same pick, but I'm going to go with Terry and Arnold. I think that's who you had as well for the Steelers at 20, but it just seems like if he's there, it seems like he would be the perfect type of fit for them.
And now we have a bunch of tackles sitting here for Miami. And I feel like they could move pieces around with what they already have, but they need to continue to address that unit, and how exactly it looks, remains to be seen. I'm looking around here, and let's see.
As John does that, don't forget Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street in Buffalo. Draft night, Thursday night, Friday night, all day draft day. Pizza, wings, everything you got there at Sports City Pizza Pub. Thanks to them for being a part of Sal's house.
I mean, I don't know exactly how this would work with them, but I'll take the Washington tackle, Troy Fautanu. I also think if you're not thinking long-term about Armstead, I mean, that guy just can't stay healthy. And it's like, you insulate yourself with some young talent that maybe even if he doesn't play from the jump, you think, okay, injuries, depth, and maybe if you move some pieces around that are already on the roster, solidifying what's in front of Tua is the most critical.
All right, so you're going with Fautanu. So want to make sure right there. Okay,
yes.
That's 21. Okay, 22. John, don't the Philadelphia Eagles just scream a guy like Chop Robinson? Isn't that the kind of guy like they just love to get their hands on? This is a really amazing athletic prospect, right? I mean, this is a guy that at his size running a sub 4.5 40. Plus, they could use some help with their pass rush. So I think Chop Robinson just this is a really good roster. If it doesn't work out, it's okay. You're still going to be a good team, but that's the kind of guy that you're going for the ceiling. That's what the Eagles do. Chop Robinson to the Eagles at 22.
All right. I'm at Minnesota at 23. And
you already gave them McCarthy, right? Yep.
Yes. So let's see here. Well, I'll go Nate Wiggins, the corner from Clemson, see if they can bolster their secondary.
Nate Wiggins, Very this isn't the greatest corner draft, but he seems to be the top guy at the position for a team there. Okay. The Dallas Cowboys are on the clock right now. Why has Dallas been so quiet this offseason? What are they doing? What are they not doing? It's like, it's like we're going to all in and all that. I don't know what that exactly means. There's some news about, Dak Prescott, and he's going to go into the final year of his contract. But they're sitting there, and you know what they love? We all know what they love, right? They love speed. They love speed at the wide receiver spot. And there's a guy in Xavier Worthy who has all the speed. So I'm going to give him Xavier Worthy, the Dallas Cowboys at wide receiver. They love that speed. They could use another wide receiver there. I know they have CeeDee Lamb, but this is a guy that's going to be able to stretch the field for them.
Wow, that would be very Dallas-like and surprising if they went that. But we know some receiver that we don't expect, at least one, is going to go before some that we do. And in this instance, maybe him going ahead of his teammate, A.D. Mitchell, would be a surprise there. All right, Green Bay on the clock. I will just take who at least PFF already has as the top one on the board. The tackle from Penn State, Fashanu.
Okay, Green Bay Packers to help a little more protection for Jordan Love right there. Okay, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we said it earlier, they got kind of a whole wide range of things that can happen here for them. Well, let's see what other people have them going. Looking at some mock drafts around. Boy, I got everything. I got edge, I got offensive tackle. What could they do here? So you know what? J.C. Latham's a good offensive tackle. He's from Alabama. So we'll keep that pipeline going, Alabama to Tampa Bay. I think there's a pipeline. Not sure. Got to go back and look. But anyway, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select J.C. Latham, the tackle from Alabama.
And Arizona on the clock at 27. I'm going to go A.D. Mitchell and say, again, let's just keep adding talent around Kyler Murray. And I know Marvin Harrison was picked there too, but now you look at their wide receiver room and it's okay. I mean, what are you going to do? I don't even know, who do they even have right now that, Hollywood Brown left?
Yeah, it's a good question. Okay, John, that gives me pick number 28. We have not left, and I did this too because I took Worthy for Dallas, of course. I did not leave the Bills with really great necessarily options at wide receiver. But I am going to tell you that there's a guy that I really was not thinking the Bills would be really interested in, but as the process has gone on, I'm warming more and more up to it as far as their possibilities to that, and that is wide receiver Keon Coleman of Florida State. I'm going to give Keon Coleman to the Buffalo Bills. I think they'd love to have Xavier Worthy here if the Cowboys didn't take him because he's a return man and they could use that speed. Obviously, it'd be amazing. But Keon Coleman's a guy that can come in and play from day one. I know he doesn't have the explosive playmaking, ball in his hands type of ability, but he's still really productive and brings a lot of traits the Bills could use at the X position.
It would be interesting largely because, and maybe this is driven by us, the media, as opposed to inside the building, but so much of the conversation is about yards after the catch and explosiveness and things like that. And that's not him. I mean, that's just not him at all.
That's right.
There are other wide receivers like a Lad McConkey or something like that who have more burst and things like that. It would go against it would be more of the Kelvin Benjamin, Andre Holmes, the bigger wide receivers that they tried bringing in early in Josh's career. And now they've tried to get a little more explosive, and that search continues. I don't think that it means he's a bad player or wouldn't be good for them.
Neither.
It just would be, they still would be searching for that. And maybe they would feel, hey, we're going to pick multiple receivers. We can get that explosive yards after the catch type of player in rounds 2 or 3.
See, I think I agree with you, and I think it's about value here. I like Troy Franklin a lot. Do I really want him at 28? I think Lad McConkey could go second round. I don't know if I want Lad McConkey at 28. I think that all these guys could kind of fit in. Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall's not a 28th overall pick, but he's a really good player. Javon Baker, all those kinds of guys. So if you're sitting at 28 in the situation I was just in, where do you think you might go?
So this might be the worst case scenario for the Bills because the top players on the board are like tackles and defensive backs and things that they don't have any real business picking, right? And I know there's some people have made arguments and discussions about the tackle position. And I know you recently said on air there's no path for that player to play immediately, and they're not in a position with their roster currently where they could be burning such a valuable asset at a spot that's not seeing the field. On top of that, that automatically is telling me you're moving on from Spencer Brown.
That's right.
And
what about a Jared Verse, an edge guy?
If they like him, I'm not opposed to edge. I think that's the next in line is edge rusher in terms of need. Maybe they would take a Chop Robinson if he would fall down there. Maybe they would be willing to take that and say, hey, we love the traits. We'll coach him up and we'll solidify this. To me, that's where it goes. Is in an ideal situation, there's an interior offensive lineman or an athletic, great edge rusher. If the wide receiver market doesn't play out the way they want, if it's like there's like 6 or there's like 4 tackles on the board in a corner, I just don't think those are avenues that they would want to go. This would be a trade back scenario, I think, if you could find a partner.
All right. So as you sit here today, without knowing anything about the board, give me your top 3 things most likely to happen as far as these: trade up, stay at 28, or trade down. 1 most likely, what's 2nd most likely, what's least likely?
I would say I believe that they want to get, and it may not be Brian Thomas, that may just be what we are discussing. I think they're going to move up to get their receiver. I don't think it's going to be profound because, as I said earlier, I think the 1 is almost untouchable, unless it was a Dunze or someone falls to 11 or 12, and it's like, maybe we could get it, but I think those 3 guys are probably unlikely for them, and I think whoever they value maybe as the next in line would be more of the middling type trade up. I put that as number 1. Number 2, I'd probably say would be stay put and just let the board fall as it may, because I think number 3, I don't know unless like a Michael Penix Jr. or a Bo Nix is still sitting there at 28 and a team wants to get that 5th-year option, that's probably the best case scenario for me to say they could find a partner and add maybe a 2 or a 3.
I love it. John, so I know you're transitioning to this new job. Thursday night comes around. You're like, I'm not really working yet at WGRZ, but the draft's going on. You going to come down and join us? What are you going to do, man? You going to hang out?
The hope is I will be working. Exactly
how
that looks remains to be seen. But yes, even if I'm not technically working, I will be showing up down there. I was there last week on Thursday because I wanted to be there for Brandon and Sean and Josh, and it ended up being Terrell Bernard and being there for that. And so, I want to be in the mix because it just helps you understand. It just helps you get in the moments and also just intake all of the information, so you're not rehashing it all on a stream from maybe the Bills website or whatever.
And I want to give everybody your X account. You haven't changed that, have you? You're all good.
No, it'll remain at Jon Scott TV. Yep.
See, isn't that cool? Like if you have the call letters of a station you're at and you move, you got to change it. Like I'm Sal Sports. I could go anywhere and I'll still be Sal Sports. You can just do Jon Scott TV from anywhere.
Correct. And I used to, I think when I first got Twitter, my last job, I had the call letters in there, but that also, I'm not verified, so I could change it, whatever, and I'm not losing anything at this point in time. That was always the concern. But you're right. When I got here to Buffalo, I'm like, I'm going to have just 1 Twitter account, and I'm not going to, all this. Jon Scott TV was just the easiest for me to keep it simple, regardless of what happens in the future.
All right, buddy. Thanks for doing this. I always appreciate you. Congratulations again, and look forward to seeing you in your new role down at One Bills Drive and elsewhere, covering Buffalo sports. Thanks for this today, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You got it. Thank you again to Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street in Buffalo. Check them out whenever you can, but especially on draft night. It's going to be awesome. The Bills pick number 28 might be earlier than we thought, or we might be there for quite a while.